Jim Mann, the host of the I Am Healing Strong podcast. And today we're talking about the episode released yesterday. So every Monday we release an episode. And yesterday's was with Janine Hammond. And she is a multitude of things. But one of those things that she is a storyteller. And so she's also a friend of Healing Strong, which is one of the aspects we want to focus on this year, being our 10-year anniversary, and kind of celebrate those who have been there with us along the way or been a part of it in some way. And so she was actually a part of our conference a little bit ago. We have one this year, but we've had two in the past. And so she was a part of one of them as the bag lady. And maybe Jim can explain a little bit more about what that is and what that character is. But Jim, how was it talking to an actress, director? I mean, she's founded her own nonprofit for the creative arts, I believe, and just talking to a great singer as well. She broke out in song. Yeah, how was that?
Yeah, I felt like I needed to do a little harmony with her, but I didn't. She's very gracious, very dramatic. I mean, in a positive way, because she is theater.
Yeah.
Um, and it's always good to have a storyteller, which is like her focus in life. But it really boils down, like she was saying, that we're all storytellers.
Mhm.
And most of us, let me just say, lots of us don't think of ourselves as storytellers. I had it hammered into my head being in radio because like all the consultants that come in, getting paid the big bucks to tell us, oh, it's all about stories, So I should do
So
that. I
simple.
should get the big bucks to tell people it's about stories. Pay
Yeah.
up. But but it really is. People want to know about stories. I know when we have I was talking about having I'll make it about radio already. But my point is about the storytelling. Anytime we had a caller at the radio station that came in and told a story, people would listen to that and re-listen to it. Like, man, we're just intrigued by other people's stories.
Mhm.
But we got to remember we each have our own story, even though it doesn't seem as exciting because we know our story. But that's what we're supposed to do as just common everyday people, is share our story. And that's what as Healing Strong is all about. Those
Yeah.
of us who have survived cancer, we got to tell that story, which it gives everybody hope that's going through a similar thing. So that's
Hmm.
kind of a good point. But yeah, she was. Thank God she doesn't have a cancer story.
Yeah.
And she's not the typical Healing Strong person that we interview because she's not a group leader. She hasn't survived cancer, but she's taken what she's got, her abilities, her God given abilities, and like being a bag lady, um, which,
Which is what?
yeah, I did see that at the 2018 convention in Atlanta. And she comes up there. Um, Dressed like a bag lady you would see in the streets of some big city. But she had a lot of energy, very positive, a lot of wisdom she's spewing out. Um, I tried to go on stage to give her a sandwich, but they stopped me. Uh,
A sandwich.
yeah, it wasn't healthy enough. So I had to sit back down.
Well, and I think because of her dress, right? Because she looks
Yeah.
like maybe she isn't as hygienic. I don't know if the clothing and the attire and the big, big bag, she's just kind of walking what you would imagine the streets
Yes,
with
yes.
her stuff. Yeah.
She played the part very well.
Mm,
But the fact that she was on stage, we realized, okay, she's acting. But if we would have seen her outside, we would have thought, oh, bless her heart. She's very positive, very friendly, but
mhm.
she is probably homeless.
Yeah.
But she spoke a lot of truths, a lot of wisdom during that time, and that's one of her characters. Obviously, she also sings, and she teaches other people about drama and tells stories on however she can. So she is a delight.
Yeah. No, she sounded very sweet on the interview. And so if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, it was just released yesterday. We have it linked in our link tree on Instagram, and then on Facebook, we'll have a link for you. Unless you're a part of our HQ support group, then we have a thread in there that just has our podcast link as well. So speaking of storytelling, some people might not know your story, Jim. You do have a story, a cancer story. So do you want to give us the snapshot elevator version of it?
Yes, we'll go from floor 1 to maybe the 4th floor. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah, everything was great. I was in radio, having a lot of fun. I was going to a radio convention at Disney. Sounds terrible, I know. Uh,
Hmm.
it's the highlight of radio for me when we all come together. And except for this time, as I was about to go down to registration, I got a call from my dermatologist that I had seen that Friday, and they were quite upset, saying, "Well, because normally they say, yeah, it was fine, it's everything's removed, it wasn't cancerous." Um, but this time they said, "Oh my goodness, this is a very aggressive form of melanoma. It's way out of our scope. You're going to have to see a surgeon the moment you come home." I mean, they kept
Mm-hmm.
stressing that. I'm like, okay, thank you for making this week good. But
Yeah, then you can't really enjoy your time. At,
exactly.
yeah.
And so, I did see the surgeon, and he thought the dermatologist had lied to him or just didn't measure correctly. He goes, "There's no way it's that big and he's still alive." But it was. And
Mm.
he had to call them and apologize because it was 2.5 times bigger than their charts. But
Oh, geez.
and so had surgery that week. It took 5.5 hours to cut me up top and cut me in the back and flip me over and cut my stomach out and put it back up on my head. Apparently, that's
Oh,
being
so they did a skin graft.
yeah. I have when you hear it growling up here, it's just my stomach.
Yeah.
But But then, to their amazement, to their shock, it had not spread. And they had already talked about the second and third surgery I'm going to have, depending on where
Mm.
it had spread. Um, and they were like, well, the borders were clean, the lymph nodes were clean. So, as far as we know, you're clean. And then it came back a year and a half later in the form of tumors throughout my body. And
Mm.
uh, meanwhile, I had changed my diet, of course, because I didn't want to come back. I cut sugar out, I started juicing, eating more vegetables, and all kinds of different supplements, things like that. And then when it came back, they put me on immunotherapy, which is something that Chris Wark talked about positively. I thought, okay, I can do this one
Mhm.
because it builds up your immune system rather than kills everything else. So I did that, took care of it. In 2 months, the tumors were gone. And that's back in 2018. And I'm staying healthy. I'm staying on the good food, no sugar, and getting exercise in, sunlight, which seems weird when you have melanoma to get out in the sun. But
Yes.
morning sun, 20 minutes. Um,
Yes. We still need the sun, and I think,
yeah,
unfortunately, it's become something that we've gotten scared of. But
yeah. Just don't go out in the middle of the day without a hat and no sunscreen. That's bad.
for a long period of time.
Yes, yes. But
Yeah.
that's where I'm at now. And
So when is your official 5-year mark? What's the date
that would
or the
be
time frame?
um that happened in August of 2018. Took 2 months. So from that
Okay.
point on, August, October
So it's
of
gonna be right after our conference.
yeah,
Oh, go from one celebration to another.
it'll be official.
Yay. That's awesome. Praise God. And so I just wanted people to hear your story in case they hadn't heard it. And no, Jim's story is unique. At Healing Strong, we don't promote one specific way, but what we really promote is getting the support in the community and leaning on God and His Word to direct you. And so healing alone is a lot more difficult. It takes a lot longer. And we kind of have seen that over the last few years as people who are isolated have a harder time. There's less happiness, there's less joy. And I think this is something even Janine talked about is Like we need to story tell. We need to encourage each other. We don't need to be alone. And she talked about how she's kind of a homebody sometimes, but she gets such joy of getting in front of people because of the love of the Lord that she has. Like that's what pushes her to get in front of people and encourage them and lift them up, because she really believes that it's something that they need.
Right. Uh-oh.
Excuse me.
Now that we're off at the 4th floor, you can take us up to maybe the 7th floor with your little story.
Oh, okay. I'll do that. Well, unlike Jim, I was not diagnosed. My mom was. So it was back in 2015 that she got the official diagnosis, but this was after several months of going through tests and calling the doctor's office, asking for results and not having any and saying, we haven't gotten them yet. We're not sure yet. And so I internally have learned that you've really got to be your own advocate and kind of knock down doors sometimes, because you might not get an answer right away. So when she finally did get an answer, it was November, I think, is when she started tests. And then that following May is when she got the final answer. So it was several months.
Wow.
And she called me to tell me it was stage 3 breast cancer. And the mammogram the year before did not catch anything. And then only within 6 months later, she started experiencing all this pain. So I am also a big fan of thermography, followed by an x-ray. And that phone call, when she called to tell me about it, well, I was in a different state at the time. She let me know Maya had stage 3 breast cancer. And there was this pause that I really believe the Lord used to help me change and pivot my life and my little family, which was, what about natural stuff? Because the idea came out of nowhere. I was living off of fast food. I did not like water. And when I went to well checks, my health was always just, oh, you're fine. But I didn't feel fine. I didn't realize it was attributed to my lifestyle and stress and nutrition. So I was like, what? Oh, Mom, what about natural stuff? And she was like, I don't know, maybe. And we kept talking, and she let me know she didn't want to do anything. She was ready for heaven. And so there's very few that I think choose that. And so that's also given me a compassion for those to be able to choose their own path and know that nobody can make that decision for you, no matter what. The person, the patient, has to decide what they want and what they believe. And she believed in the Lord. She believed she was going to be with him again, and my grandma who had passed on. And so she was ready. And I went home because I was in the car and started looking things up online. And at that time, at 2015, you could see stuff on the first page of results. There wasn't digging required. And so things like The Truth About Cancer popped up. That was my first go-to. I watched their global series, shared it with her, and she was confirmed that that's not the route she wanted to go. And she lived 9 more months as herself. And we were all with her, and which is just such a huge blessing. But in the meantime, the Lord was just working on me. And I was just so convicted to take my baby step changes to pivot into a new way of living. And I am so, so grateful. I call it my bittersweet blessing, because I honestly do not think I would have done it on my own. It took my mom's diagnosis for the Lord to be like, hey, you need to go in the direction of things that I have given you. Because I grew up a believer doesn't mean I truly understand his gifts and his creation and things that are here for us to be able to live more healthy. And I'm living for prevention as a result, and I feel very blessed by that. So that is my story in a nutshell. Did we make it to 7, or are we past?
No, we just got here, so that's
Sweet. So the stories are very different, and it doesn't matter with Healing Strong. You can have a story of cancer, stage 4 melanoma, like Jim, or you can come because you want to learn more. And I think it's such a blessing, or like Janine, just really support the mission and use your gifts in your own way that the Lord has given you. And so come whoever you are, whatever stage you're in, because the sense and support from community and living more naturally, reducing that stress, I mean, who wouldn't benefit from that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good, and you can't make that decision for someone else like you
Hmm.
figured out for your mom, you just can't do it. You gotta wanna survive,
Yep.
and, she wanted to survive on the other side, which is real survival, but, yeah,
Hmm.
and I can understand that, sometimes I
You,
think, "Ah, man, this world is crazy, I'm ready to go," but then I still got 4 kids, that yeah, I'm older, but they were younger, so I'm always behind. Um,
yeah,
so I still
yeah.
want to see some of them get married and all that kind of thing.
And that's what she mentioned that too. My brother and I are the only 2 kids they had, and we were both adults and married at that point. She's like, "If you guys were still at home, it would be different, but I'm ready." And when I was in college, she had a cyst from childhood that had turned cancerous,
Mm,
or from high school, I guess she did, and then so she had a really bad experience with that. They had to do a skin graft with her, but her healing did not go very well. And um, there were some things that should have been done differently in her recovery, and things the hospital neglected. And so she was like, I'm done. I'm
mm,
ready to go.
yeah,
So it was kind of her second bout, if you will, but it was much more extreme the second time.
yeah, yeah. I understand
Yeah.
that the skin grafts can be brutal even when they go well. So,
Yeah. They took it from her stomach and put it on her leg, because it was on her ankle. And so yeah, they had to do a lot of rearranging, and there was a lot of discomfort as a result of that surgery and recovery that she dealt with up until the day she passed. So
yeah,
you really have to know that what you want. If you want to live, why do you want to live? And if you don't, having peace with that, and having peace that that's what they're choosing. And so I that's kind of a go-to of mine now, which I think is a benefit, because we need to realize we can't decide for other people. They need to be able to understand if they want to live and why, or if they don't. So
yes.
it's a very unique perspective. So I thank the Lord for all of it, because it's helped me grow in a lot of ways.
Well, that's good. I like to see you grow.
Yes,
You kids.
you as you as well, Jim.
Oh man, I don't know. Yeah,
you're you're doing
I'm
fine.
growing mentally a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's that you got to feed this
Yeah.
helps you grow.
Yes, that's true. It's growling right now. In fact, I've already feed it.
Well, we kind of brought it up. So do you want to just spend like 30 seconds and talk about our conference before we end?
Sure, we've got one of those coming up in
Hmm.
Houston, Texas at the Met Church coming up September 29th and 30th. It's our 10-year anniversary already. I was just a kid when this started. Uh,
Hmm.
well, mentally, I was a kid, still am. But
Yes.
yeah, that's exciting that Healing Strong is 10 years strong and still growing. Um,
Hmm.
and hope to see you out there making plans. Houston's kind of central eh, to the country. It's easier to get to. Um, so you got to make your plans now. Give me a little time as we're still putting together, and the details are still being ironed out as we're making it. But it does end with a worship service, a time of giving God all the honor and glory, because He's the one that put it all together, and He's the one that does all the healing. So,
Yep.
so that's what's
Amen.
happening.
And Mr. Chris Work is our MC.
I've heard of him. He
Yeah,
wrote a book.
I know. Me too. It's because of him I know who Healing Strong and what Healing Strong is.
Yes, he's like our
As a
gatekeeper.
Yes, he has been a wonderful resource and friend and support to Healing Strong over the years. So very blessed to have him MC. And we will go ahead and include a link in the post of Facebook for this. And then if you're on Instagram, the link is in the link tree to get conference updates. So as those details become available, you will be updated. But September 29th and 30th, Houston, Texas, kind of earmark that in your mind, because we'd love to have you come. No matter if you're diagnosed or not, come with a loved one who is, to support them, and just join in on a time of learning, fellowship, and worship.
All right. Hope to see you there.
Yeah. Okay. Have a great day, Jim.
Bye.